Hi, this is Janos, it's Real World Audio. Okay, I'm recording and I'm answering a question about the difference between live loudspeaker cabinets and dead loudspeaker cabinets. And this is partially for two reasons. One of them is Mike's wonderful question, thoughtful question, and the other is Thiago was asking me that to revisit subjects that I have covered years ago, and but they still have relevance today, and whether I can have a look at them with a fresh eye. And here I will do both. So basically, Mike asked this question about this video. Oh my, okay. No to no res GR research versus real world audio. So that
take a look.
Okay, now and it's making me watch a commercial. I wanted to show part of the video to you, but okay, YouTube says no, even to the creator. That tells you something. Anyway, so there was this video and I was talking about no res. So and lots of coming back here, basically Mike was commenting this to this video. I do not understand how a microphone doesn't pick up certain frequencies in the live music. This really makes no sense. How can a microphone decide to ignore certain frequencies when its response covers the entire spectrum? And even more hard to believe is that a speaker cabinet can magically know exactly what sounds were ignored by the microphone and reproduce these. It sounds like magical thinking to me, no offense. I would be looking into why the recording is not up to par rather than build a faulty speaker cabinet. And I would say that this is an excellent train of thought and you are absolutely correct on all points. And it was also my train of thoughts, and things look a lot different. So that's than what we are assuming based on the general idea that we get from the literature and advertisements. So now, what I was doing and how I made my conclusions was based on the process of recording and playback, and when I looked through all of that, I have realized that the existing speaker cabinet designs are faulty. And why do I base my thinking on that? Well, that would fill a dozen of books, but right now let's attack this question from the other side about recording live music. And when you word it like this, then it really doesn't make sense. If the microphone picks up the whole frequency range, then it has to be all there. And the answer to that is yes and no. And the problem is not the frequency range. The problem is directivity, is that when there is a sound happening from an event, then you have certain sound waves coming right at you, and you have sound waves that are reflecting from the room and then coming at you. And when you are a human being, you hear all of these. So when you are looking at or observing a concert, then you hear all of the sounds. You hear the sounds that travel to you directly from the instrument, and you hear also the sounds that are reflected to you from the walls around the venue. Now, when we are microphoning this event, then the mics are pointing at the microphone and are efficient at picking up the sounds where they are pointed at. Now, there is a directivity for microphones, and there are microphones which are omnidirectional. They can pick up sounds not just coming right at them, but basically coming from everywhere. Of course, there is no such thing as a true omnidirectional microphone. Even those have preferences based on the actual angle of the sound wave hitting their recording surfaces. But the vast majority of recording microphones are directive. They have very strict directivity patterns, and when the sound wave is coming at an angle that is very much different from what their directivity defines, then their efficiency of picking up that sound greatly decreases. So what is happening there is that, for example, when there's a violin playing or a guitar playing, then when the person strums the guitar, then those sounds which project from the strings of the guitar and from the surface of the guitar's body, which face the microphone, those will be picked up at a very high efficiency and turned into electrical signal, and those sounds which the guitar radiates to the back wall and radiates in other directions than the direct direction, the shortest path to the microphone, those will not be, these will be missing on the recording. And that's why you can mic that guitar, and when you measure all of the frequencies that the guitar produced in that direction will be on the recording, will be recorded, but those which are not compatible with the directivity of the microphone, those will be not on the recording. And that's why, depending on the kind of the music instrument, the recorded version versus the live version can be quite similar or drastically different. And sadly, this is some extremely basic audio knowledge, which should be extremely basic audio knowledge, but is almost unknown to audiophiles. And I think one of the most eye-opening material to get into this is listening tests, A/B tests. So you have to figure it out for yourself. I have the fortune of having musician friends and hear them playing live, and seeing them record or doing recordings, and after that hearing their recordings and compare to the live events, and yes, that's how one can notice that maybe that recording sounds absolutely wonderful, but when you heard the live event, then you can tell that there are major differences. Even though the recording is audiophile, it sounds fantastic, it sounds fabulous, it's absolutely crazy plus, but it's still quite lacking to the original event. And I have made a video, let's see, it is here. This is one of the videos. It's called Ultimate Live versus Recorded Audiophile Tests. This was one of my first videos. I made it in 2021. And out of my videos that I made for the 5 years or 4 years that I'm making this channel, this is one of the video that I think it's one of my most valuable videos ever. And guess what? On the top 100 list, is it there? It has less than 147 views. So I think that's why it's a good idea to have a look at it again. Because if I would have like 5 videos of my channel that I think are the most worthwhile to watch, this is one of them, because this contains information that every audiophile should know. And what I'm talking about here is that audiophile testing and how testing is done properly, and it's not really that this is the way you have to do, there's nothing else, but I'm showing two examples here to broaden the scope for everyone, to have a better idea on how the perception of sound is, how the perception of music is, what is important, and what is something that will give you a more useful result and open up your perspectives, rather than something which is vastly limited. So basically here I showed one example which was done by a European team. Here I will show their video directly. So this channel is Alpha Audio, live mass test tube amps with live music. So I think if you are an audiophile, this is how you should do your audio comparisons, and I would say even this is very limited, can give you very limited information, but is by far the best that I've ever seen on YouTube for more modern ages. So what they did is that they picked a bunch of tube amplifiers, both in push-pull and in single-ended configuration, and they used the same system, and they played them all, and they did not just have a set material that they played, but they also had a band live right there who played for them, so they could hear how the band sounds live, and then they played the band's CD or streamed or some electronic, I forgot what it was, but they played the recorded version of the band, and just saw like how does it compare with the live music. So I think that's where we can start our investigations on what is really there on the recording, and what is the microphone doing, and what are the speakers doing, and how did they do. It was streamed live, 3 hours stream, just like a lot of work. So guys, Alpha Audio guys, my hats off to you. This is absolutely fabulous, and it is a crying shame they had only 6,000 views since 2020. I think they deserve at least like 100 times the views from the audiophile community, and I am personally shaming every single audiophile on planet Earth who hasn't watched this video. Shame, shame, shame. So, but you don't have to be one of the shamed ones, because I will also add the link to this video at the end of my video. Somewhere you will be able to see this video pop up, and the link pop up in the description below. So I think this is absolutely phenomenal, and we need to have this kind of effort put in to have an idea on how we look at the recorded music versus the live music. And now in my video, this one, I also have another study done, which to my knowledge has been the largest scale A/B test that was done on recorded versus live music, and it was a whole symphonic orchestra and a whole concert basically. And let me just scroll there you see. So this was done in the 50s. This was published in January 57, and you see that's where the performance was, performers, and there's like that thing 1, 2, 3, those are the Ampex speakers there, 109 dB efficient loudspeakers, 3 of them, because at that time the stereo meant 3-channel stereo, So that was the state of the art of that age. So 3 speakers and 3 ampex amplifiers. And why is that special to me? Because where is it? I think here. This is my system, and then you see there that amp there and blown up here on my test bench. These are the same amplifiers that those guys for the A/B test used for the general public. So they use the same amps that I'm using, and that I have a fortune to know how their sound, what their sound is. So I'm really comfortable with them, and they did on that landmark study did something absolutely astonishing. I don't want to go into what they did, just watch this video, but here what is relevant to my video. Let me see. I think it will here. Yes, it will be here on this slide that I presented. And what they noticed, they recorded that the material that they played back to the audience. Basically 2,500 people were the test shot subjects, and they recorded the material with omnidirectional microphones, so they pick up in every direction. So they have not just the direct but the reverb sound was recorded as well. So it was there on the tapes, on the Ampex tapes. But what they noticed is that the trained listeners, they had lots of trained listeners as well in the audience, not just dilettantes, not just, they had, most of the audience was just just people going to the orchestra, just going to a concert. But there were also trained listeners participating who were made aware that this is happening, and they wanted them to report on what they heard, because they prepared them that, okay, please make sure and note what you hear, what the differences are. And what they said is that from the recording they could hear a very different direct to reverb ratio. And that was the most striking difference between live versus reproduced. It was not like the dynamic range, it wasn't the frequency range, it wasn't clarity, it wasn't transparency. None of these audiophile terms or what we think of it, but it was the difference between direct and reverb. And when you talk to audiophiles today, or manufacturers, or people involved in making loudspeakers, how many of them talk about this? How many? We knew from 1957 that the most important difference between recorded and live is the ratio of direct versus reverb. What are the companies doing about it? And well, there are some which are doing something about it, but it's not really in the forefront of audiophile knowledge, particularly because now the average listener is not really keen on hearing the same thing that goes on in a concert hall, even though we are claiming we want that. But no, what we want really is the highest level of detail that we can get from the system. But you can get the highest level of detail by imbalancing the direct versus reverb ratio. That's sadly part of the laws of physics, how psychoacoustics work, how the sounds work, is that the reverb is always decreasing the clarity of the overall performance. That's why today's audio industry is pushing direct sound at the cost of reverb. And now you would say, here everybody wins because the customer wants greater resolution, greater clarity, more direct sound. And yes, that's what they are getting. So the companies are not lying to you. They are doing what you want, what the customer wants. But my question is that I do not want that. And that's why 20 plus years ago I stopped being an audio consumer and I make my own audio stuff, because I find what I get from the consumer market insufficient for my needs. That's what it is. So everyone, what you like, what you want, you can have it. And sometimes what you want is maybe not that available, or if it's available, maybe it comes at a certain price point that you are not prepared to pay. But even when you look at that, good luck finding a company that is talking about this, what this study has shown in the 50s. And basically they are pointing at the fact that this is an area that needs attention. And at that time what they did, this recording was with the state-of-the-art equipment of the age. So that was the high end of their time. And it stood the test of high end, because when you look at the video, most people could not tell when they were playing live versus when it was played from a recording. Almost no one could tell. There were some, like, when the only thing that gave it away was the low-level tape hiss on quiet passages, that those who were sitting in the front row, they heard that, okay, I now hear a tape hiss, and they knew, okay, that must be a tape hiss, so it's probably coming from a recording. But if they just played like a blank tape hiss plus the musicians playing live, they would have said, okay, now I'm hearing a recording. So the technology in the 50s was adequate to have even like the most keen observers not worried whether it's live or recorded. It was just as enjoyable. But what they noticed is that the direct to reverb ratio was really off, and the string energy versus wind energy was distorted in reproduction. So the strings sounded disproportionately more direct sounding on the recording. So and since then, this trend that they observed at that listening test has been even more exaggerated. So today, with our recording preferences, the flavor that the consumer demands, the direct to reverb ratio is even further skewed towards the preference of direct sound. And that's my main reason, because I grew up with live sound. I grew up going to the symphonies. I grew up listening my grandfather play and my family members singing. I grew up with live sound. I went to tons of live concerts, and for me, when I heard my first audiophile systems, I was really shocked at the level of detail and also first and foremost the appearance of imaging, which is not present in non-audiophile typical gear. But to me, the how it sounded and how they represented music, the way an orchestra sounds from a typical audiophile equipment, it makes my skin crawl. It's I find it really a big no. So that's why I started exploring like what's going on, what's happening, and partially what I noticed and what's my brain. I try to visualize what's happening when there's a concert going on, when music is happening, and how is that different from the speakers playing it. And what is very different is that when you have, imagine, let's just take the example of a string instrument. Let's take the guitar. We've been talking about the guitar, and my nephew is a guitarist. He is a phenomenal guitar talent, and it's just saying that I am not estranged to the sound of the guitar. And also my good friend Taltos, he is a phenomenal guitar player, and yeah. So anyway, let's get back to the guitar. So when you have a guitar playing, then it has its direct sound. The sound that first hits your ears from a guitar is the sound coming from the strings. So that's the fast energy, the quickest released energy comes from the strings. But those are the higher frequencies, because the strings do not have enough surface area to couple their resonant energy at low frequencies to the air. So the strings are not capable to have like a bass note, the lowest sound, like on the G string, like the open G string. If there's no guitar body to it, just the guitar neck, and you just like break away most of the guitar's body, and you plug the G string, it will be very, very quiet. But the body of the guitar amplifies resonance, so that energy that the string initiates will be amplified through that body and transferred across the entire surface of the guitar body, radiating in every direction. So some of it will be radiated directly in the same direction where your microphone is, but the majority of the energy will be going on all kinds of directions. And when I am sitting there, it arrives at my ear from all kinds of directions, but the ear is capable to hear the sound coming from any direction. And based on the shape of our earlobes, of our ears, and additional processing, analog processing in the brain, we are able to compute in an analog manner where was the original source that sound originated from. Now all of this is missing in the microphone, because microphone is not an intelligent thing like a human being. They can only hear whatever their directivity allows and nothing else. So even if it's like 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz range, it captures that, but only from this directivity, from the initial plucking of the guitar, and then like a couple hundred or couple 10 milliseconds later what the body of the guitar amplifies of that string. But then what the reverb that arrives from the room, that gives the ultimate feel of the body of the guitar, the richness of the tonality and the spatiality, that is very much compromised, and only a tiny fraction of that will be on that microphone if it's a highly directive microphone. And the more directive the microphone is, the more it will be able to receive of that information. However, even if you reproduce it in a loudspeaker, if a loudspeaker is very directive, now we have a problem that information which was omnidirectional, which was reverb information, and it should arrive to the listener's ear from the reverb, it's now arriving radiated. Now that's skewing things. And that's why actually nowadays the recording technology is geared towards using highly directive microphones, so that only that sound is directed at you which in real life is directed at you, and you are missing the reverb. That they try to do some things in mastering to add effects that mimic the reverb. And However, it still cannot give you the same example, because if you have like a nice clean audiophile recording where they don't tamper much with the master, they just have the best possible microphone, best possible location, and just have as directive as possible, and they record it, play it back, you have that clean information, but and it will be very precise, extremely clinical, but lacking a lot of the ambience of the body and of the event, and all of those things, the ambience and the body and the reverb, that's what creates the emotionality in the sound. That's why the very clinical systems are not emotional, are not able to transmit the, I would say, not the emotion of the person who was playing the instrument. So that's what emotionality is. That it's not that the music is smeared or is distorted or colored, that's why it's emotional. No. Recorded music is emotional when the system is able to transmit the emotions of the person playing the guitar, singing, etc., and you can connect to it as a listener. And that's the goal of music live, that the person playing the music has certain ideas, certain emotions, certain experiences that they lived through, and they communicate it through the language of music to you. And the language of music is able to transmit really deep emotional concepts, really deep intellectual concepts, and we can get it. That's why we place such high value at live music. However, when you go to live music, you will experience that an absolutely negligible amount of live music is such where the musician is good enough to transmit his or her emotions to you. And that's what my goal is, that when you have musicians who were recorded, who are able to do that, you can connect to them whether live or recorded. Both of it is possible, but you need to give a chance to your audio system to allow this for you. And what my train of thought is, and how I did develop my path, is that what I noticed is that we have this direct radiated message coming to us that is on the recording, and maybe there's also some omnidirectional material, reverb material as well, but the problem is that it's still coming at you directly, and I need reverb material that is missing. And perhaps the only way, or one of the ways to get it, is to have your cabinet resonated. Some speaker manufacturers did it in a way that they add additional drivers that fire up or fire backwards or fire to the side, and I think that when you do that, that certainly adds a lot of this reverb, and I applaud those manufacturers who did that for their ability to think outside the box. But when you have the active driver, it adds a lot of character to it as well, and the main constituent of this reverb material is that it should be something passive. It should not be something that has a vastly different directive components to it, because when you have a driver at the top of the speaker or at the back of the speaker, it has its own directive measures, so whatever they will produce and bounce around in the room, it will still have that initial directivity where it started. So my approach is to use the entire surface, like here I'm pointing to them, to use the entire surface of the loudspeaker cabinet to resonate and give that resonance to the air. So basically the whole surface radiates into the room, and then that gets reflected to the room, and that creates that 3D space that we have. And for this to work, you need to have lots of special considerations for the cabinets. I'm not going into that would take hours and hours by itself. But when you apply all of the required considerations, then what you will receive is that it will work, and it will give that reverb to direct ratio, much better direct to reverb ratio than the deadened cabinet approach. And to all of you, all of us, I say that when you have a completely deadened speaker, yes, it will sound clearer, because there the direct to radiated direct to reverb ratio is vastly skewed. It's as skewed as technologically possible, and that de facto means that it gives you the cleanest image. But whether that cleanest image, cleanest sound is what you hear at a live event, that's another consideration. It is not. You hear more, but is one good or the other good? It's up to you. My voice recorder just stopped. Okay, let's restart. I hit the recording time limit. So where was I? So basically it's up to you to decide what you want to explore. My advice, explore both, and you will find that you will have some music material that will be preferable, your preference to listen to with one approach, and other music that you want to listen with another approach. And I think that's perfectly good. And so that was my very long short answer to Mike's question. And yes, he's correct on every point, except that there's and I think it's really good that I really welcome questions and comments like that, because it gives me pointers what you would like to hear, which are the details which are not as clear as I think they should be clear. And I think perhaps usually why this happens is because in my videos, little by little, I give you all of the pointers so you can put together what's in my head. But when you see only a single video, I cannot reiterate every single detail. That's the foundation of that scope, because then that would be a single video of 5-7 hours. So I think now I don't want to make this another 5 to 7 hours video, so let's stop right now. And thank you, Mike, for your question. Bye bye.